This is the relation between unity and diversity. In fact, Frame says the relation between unity and diversity is, and he puts this in italics, Van Til's most distinctive contribution to theology. And in doing this, discussing unity and diversity, at times Van Til appears unequivocally to endorse the idea of system, which I emphasize too, while at other times he seems to attack it. In favor of system, and you may remember that I emphasized system over and over again in my introductory lecture way back. Was it 3 or 4 months ago we started this course, or 3 or 4 years ago? It seems so long. In favor of system is his view that God himself is exhaustively comprehensible to himself. All right, fine. I'm sure God's mind is systematic, perfectly logical, and so on. And Van Til, Frame continues to quote Van Til, God's knowledge is systematic. There must be in God an absolute system of knowledge. That is Frame's words with reference to Van Til. And then he further goes on, we see then that our knowledge of the universe must be true since we are creatures of God who has made both us and the universe. Let me read that sentence again. This is Frame's sentence representing Van Til's view. Listen to it again. We see then that our knowledge of the universe must be true since we are creatures of God who has made both us and the universe. So now, if you can't guess what I'm going to say about that, you haven't been in the course very much, or you've been asleep all the time. In the first place, that is an invalid inference. It's bad logic. God may have made us, and yet our ideas may be false. In fact, a lot of our ideas are false. They often are. Of course, if we have knowledge, it is true. But this is a mere tautology. For example, Einstein says we have no knowledge of the universe, and so did Hume. And I'll read Van Til's sentence, Frame's sentence again. Our knowledge of the universe must be true, since we are creatures of God who has made both us and the universe. But can you figure anything crazier than that? That's ridiculous. Some more quotes. With regard to the existence of God and the truth of Christian theism, there is absolutely certain proof. There is a cogent theistic proof. End of quote. Now, Frame's statement there is quite true. Van Til has said this over and over again. He doesn't accept Thomas's proof or any other proof, but he insists that there is an absolutely certain proof, a cogent theistic proof. And he indicates that he means the cosmological proof, not the ontological proof. And for some 40 years now, I have been bugging him to show me the proof so I could see whether it was valid or not. He hasn't accommodated me as yet. Well, the next page of Frame. These paragraphs sort of summarize Each paragraph summarizes about one page of Frame's article. A quote from Frame. "The Trinity is the heart of Christianity, and the doctrine of analogical knowledge is a corollary from the doctrine of the Trinity. Man's knowledge is true because, not in spite of, the fact that it is analogical." And then he winds up on a better note. "All doctrines are interdependent. The parts depend on the whole, and the whole depends on the parts." Which is a good assertion that Christianity is a system. But what are you going to make of the statement, man's knowledge is true because, not in spite of, the fact that it is analogical? And remember, for Van Til, a statement that is analogical has no univocal element in it whatever. And to repeat what I've already said 3 or 4 times, you cannot have an analogy unless there is at least one univocal point of similarity. And I gave you Aristotle's example of the medical man, the medical book, the medical instrument, and so on. Now, Frame quotes this. He has spent several pages doing this, from page, say, 296 to page 304. If you remember, he began by saying that there are things in Van Til which indicate that he is in favor of a system. He better be, because his ordination vow said that he accepted the system of doctrine expounded in the Westminster Confession. Every minister in the OPC and in the PCA and in the RPCS takes an ordination vow that he accepts the system of doctrine in the Westminster Confession. And so Van Til accepts the system. What says Frame? There are lots of things in Van Til that go contrary to that. There are portions of his work which are sort of anti-systematic. Van Til denies that Christianity is a deductive system. And to support this assertion, Frame quotes this from, I'm quoting from Frame. "Our knowledge is analogical and therefore must be paradoxical. All teaching of Scripture is apparently contradictory." All teaching of Scripture is apparently contradictory. Let me ask you, is it somewhere said in the Old Testament that David was king of Israel? Is that apparently contradictory? And yet, Frame quotes Van Til as saying, all teaching of Scripture is apparently contradictory. And the reason is that our knowledge is analogical and therefore must be paradoxical. Of course, he hasn't shown yet that we have any knowledge. That's one trouble. Quote, "Van Til denies that the paradox of the three and one can be resolved by the formula one in essence and three in person. Rather, we do assert that God, that is the whole Godhead, is one person." Now, if you will get Frame's article, you'll find the reference in Van Til, which I don't have on this sheet of paper. So I'm not the only one who insists that Van Til says that God is one person and three persons. Frame admits that he says that.